Let's play chess. One of these moves. I missed a free piece here. Didn't I? Yeah. Okay. That piece was all pretty. This game was sewn up. Um, Missed a piece early, but was able to come back and win anyway. I'm not expecting this to be a very accurate game. At least it's going to be the one huge blunder on my side, and one huge miss on my side, and the one huge blunder on my opponent's side. At least that's what I'm expecting. Let's see what the game review has in store for us. This is actually reasonably accurate. I'm glad to see that. Let's go over this game move by move. I'm gonna turn it off. In a minute or two, in about a minute, the HVAC will turn off, so you don't hear quite as much background noise. I'm also gonna have this set to a low setting to try to stave off the onset of computer noise from interfering with your ability to hear what I say. Let's just go to the here. Alright. That'll turn off in a minute. I'm not so worried enough to tend to it right now. I have the white pieces and begin. E4, E5, knight F3. Now this D6, this is as old as the hills, my friend. This is as old as the hills, my friend. This is called the Philidor defense. It's passive because it blocks in black's dark square bishop. And it's solid because black has a great central pawn chain. There's a lot of different directions things can go from there. Most classically, white might play bishop to c4. That's usually one of the advised options, and you can see here that indeed the second best option offered by Stockfish is bishop to c4. D4 is what I play most often, and just rips apart the center early. And we have sort of a different kind of, almost a different kind of starting position, right? The pieces are all symmetrical on every place they can be, and it's white's turn to move. So this is kind of like playing a different starting position. We're without a knight and a pawn, and same thing for our opponent. Although, you know what, I take that back, my friends. These pieces are not all symmetrical. So, anyway, it's white's turn to move. I'm going to trade queens, mostly because it robs black of the opportunity to castle by force. He has to capture back, as indicated by this arrow, and then the black king will be in the center, and the white king might be more mobile, or at least able to keep hidden his intentions on where to castle or not. Makes it more difficult to attack the white king. Knight c3 is just a regular developing move. There's nothing special there. a6. I'm with the computer on this one. It's good. It's not best, but it's good. It looks like it's a bit too slow, maybe, but black doesn't want incursions at b5, okay? With no queen on the board, these minor piece conversions, and with one set of pawns traded, minor piece conversions to b5 are a little more serious than we might otherwise expect. Plus, in my opinion, I have to find the right move. Bishop c4 here. If I don't find bishop c4, then b5 is coming. And all of a sudden, black's amassing an advantage in space on the queen side. So I can't let that happen. And so I do let bishop to c4 happen. Now I've got my knight and my bishop developed well in a good space. If it were, like I said, if it were bishop b5 early, then this bishop would be back at d3 probably, and what more than a pretty darn good but still a tall pawn. King e7. I don't know, a little bit weird. Yeah, king e7. The king wants to protect f7. That's all. And even king e8 is better than that to protect it from here. Not blocking your bishop with e7. Or I mean, really, maybe f6 would have been called for here. My opponent played king e7. It does have the logical intention of protecting the pawn on f7. So this check here. You know what I do like about king e7 though? Black says, yeah, you traded queens on d8 and now I can't castle. I'm going to make the best of it and move my king when it makes some sense to move my king. So I like that part of the move. Just blocking in the bishop here is a little bit severe. Then knight d5 check. And the king has just moved too many times. White is way ahead in development. And some developing moves. You know, of course, I do miss this free piece on b4. I would have sewn things up a little more neatly and with a little bit less. Oh my gosh, how come I missed that piece? But the moves that white plays after c3, I think for the most part, were pretty good. I see the potential of a pin on the d file when I played rook d1. This knight moves somewhere, and this pin against the bishop was central to my plans in the forthcoming moves. A trade here for the doubled pawns and the extra pawn on f7. Things are looking pretty good for white through these moves. Trading light squared bishops is fine for white, and we'll have some sort of rooks and bishop endgame. A lot of good, excellent, great, best moves made through here. This is clean play for the most part, but that doesn't mean it's not nuanced. In some situations, it's nuanced. For instance, after the trade of bishops on d6, it would be tempting to play b4 or a4 to keep this pressure on d6, but that pressure's not going anywhere. Neither are black's defenses against it. So not exactly sure we're going to get a lot of return for my active rook on d5. This is a very active rook. This is the strongest piece on the board. We're not going to get much in exchange for having an active rook if we're continuing to hit at an adequately guarded d6 pawn. So the computer says, what's the computer? It's listing the same move twice. What's that about? Anyway, I move my rook to a5. This is more active. White is getting more bang for his buck, so to speak, here. I decide to close things up with a3, and the moves just sort of spell themselves out. I have an extra pawn, and sometimes you make the best move, he makes the best move, you make the best move, he makes the best move. Enough moves down the line, the position will clarify itself. When you have the extra pawn going into that sort of exchange back and forth, you're more likely to end up on top at the end of those moves. Rook takes a5 allows to recapture. Rook takes a5, and this rook is doing a marvelous job on a5, preventing the advance of d6, putting a6 under fire, under pressure that black has to use his entire rook to defend. It's a great piece. White's rook on a5 is by far the strongest piece on the board here. So we pretty much move our kings in. Not quite yet, excuse me. Not quite yet then. But pawn to b5. Just making sure that as black here we don't capture and lose our rook on a8. But pawn to b5. I think rook takes a6 is the correct capture when it comes to it here. The computer indicates rook takes a6 as best, and a4, oh sorry, it's b6. a4, perhaps worthy of merit, but you don't want to really close your rook in like that. It's a bit scary, if nothing else. We have rook takes a6, rook takes a6, but pawn takes a6. So here's the concept of a decoy. You look at this position, how you gonna know what's gonna happen here? As black, as white. It's part of this, if you haven't seen this idea before or been instructed about it or both, this isn't exactly the first thing to pop out in your mind. Don't be worried, there are others like you. White has a one game. Well, first of all, white has 2 extra pawns, and that's fine. But these pawns on the A file are decoys. We're going to use them as decoys. Without any interference, these pawns, like black's pawns, have absolutely no way of ever capturing this a6 pawn, at least not in this game, in this position. That pawn is for these 3 pawns. The king, therefore, must be the piece to capture these unopposed pawns, hopefully either before they queen, like on a6 or a7, or the moment they queen, like on a8 check, and then king takes a8. The problem with that is that leaves this whole other side of the board pretty much open. White's king is going to come into f3, then g4, then f5, capture on f6, and the g pawn is rolling. And you could calculate move for move here, but think about it. The king is going to spend way too many moves. 1, 2, let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and even then, contending with the pawn at e4 isn't clear. And this pawn on the d file will have, so we were at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 moves the king and black are gonna spend to gather these potential queens on the a file, and then queen the d pawn. And that's even considering nothing of the fact that white has the d5 square and the d5 square covered. All right, now let's do the same for white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So white is quite a bit faster in this than black. And I think that's pretty much how we played this out. I think my opponent and I played this out mostly along these same lines. King b6, black's done. So whether it's b6, I mean maybe b6 aims to get at e4 a little earlier, but then the a3 pawn is still a danger. Right? So we're actually going to play this position out to be clear for those of us who are interested in getting a better grasp of endgames. We'll just let those pawns go, and though we've lost 2 pawns and the pawn number's even for a moment, we have our queen. End of story. Queen's there. So we often give a check. Probably found a way to either completely cut off the king's access, completely cut off the king's access. or force them to protect on a particular square. No. That didn't work out quite as well as I thought. All right. Alright. So I played white. I had a great game except for this move c3. c3 wasn't the problem. That the move wasn't knight takes b4. Now that was the problem. Should play knight b4. Alright. So that's all, my friends, Gravitrons, viewers. Thank you so much for watching. On More Gravity. Have a great night.